Welcome to another episode of Mr. Therapist and the Counselor podcast, where we discuss recovery, mental health, and we demystify the process of therapy. We are the best, the most entertaining podcast, mental health and recovery podcast. Jesse O.
This week on the show, we discussed the controversial docuseries Quiet on Set and the ramifications from that series.
That's right. We want to remind you to please share the show if you find some value. If you listen to this episode, you don't like us, we don't hit your vibe, that's okay. Don't share it. But if you get a laugh, if you value what we have to say, if this is entertaining, if you get something out of it, share it with a friend. Share it on your story. Support the show. Here we go.
Kill my vibe. Bitch, don't kill my vibe.
Dude, the kids.
Oh, the kids listen to this. That's right.
Yeah,
we
this
are
is a late night show.
Late night show.
Yeah, we're cussing. We're like the modern Howard Stern, dude.
Whoa.
No?
Did you ever watch Howard Stern?
Yeah, I would, but it was like I was like a little kid, and I was like, there's like naughty talk on here.
You ever seen that movie Private Parts about his book?
Oh yeah, that was
that's some graphic ass shit. Howard's changed a lot. He's just gotten older, so he's not as racy. He could just have celebrities on, so different times. We'll be talking about the 90s in a little bit. Different times. What are you laughing at?
I just because I was just thinking back to like
that movie.
No, I was thinking back to like the first like I don't know, like the first time I saw nudity on TV, and
okay,
yeah, but that show kind of reminisced me back to that time. It was kind of funny. It was the Titanic though. It was Kate Winslet.
Really?
Yeah. It was interesting.
Man.
It was kind of crazy that my parents would let me watch that when I was like 8 years old. So
it's not really though. Here's the thing. Why do we allow our kids to watch like these action violent movies where people are dying?
That's true.
And you can't look at a pair of breasts?
That's true. Very true. Come on, man. Very true.
It's wild, right? How we feel like, we look at that. Sex is almost like, we put an R rating on that, but like
Spider-Man, you could watch Spider-Man.
Batman be tearing the shit up in Gotham City, smacking fools around. Even though Batman's like, his thing is he doesn't kill anybody.
He doesn't?
No.
Oh.
That's why the last Batman that came out, there was like this whole thing is like,
it's so dark.
It kind of broke from like what Batman's like belief was. He's like, he didn't believe in killing people. That's why he never killed the Joker. He just beat the crap out of him all the time.
Oh man, but that's why he keeps coming back.
Yeah. Maybe he's just killed.
Oh Lord, can you
get the justice system don't work, especially in Gotham City.
You're replicating the cycle. There's been decades of like Joker Batman beef, and they don't,
Yeah, we'll talk about Joker on another episode coming soon.
Ooh. God
how you
bless
been?
The Joker.
What's new? Hoodies in May. We are so cozy. It's cold in this office. It's really cold.
I think I hit the AC down to like 52.
Dude, 50 what?
52.
Damn.
Degrees.
It's so cold.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm good, man. I'm good.
I hate the.
Hey, you wearing a Laker hat? Are you doing this playoff thing or what?
You know what? If the Lakers are in the playoffs or not right now, I'm still rooting for the Lakers.
We're in May, baby.
Go Lake Show. No, we're not. Are
May
we?
Gray, yeah.
Oh,
Gray
it is.
May.
That's right. Yeah.
May Gray.
Boy,
that's why we're wearing sweaters. But why do you like basketball?
What?
No judgment.
Especially that face. I'll say this: I like basketball because I was probably the best at that sport. I had more fun. I had the most fun doing that, like playing basketball.
You like The Professor? You seen The Professor on YouTube?
No.
Oh, that dude gets down.
The Professor?
Yeah, he's like a white boy, but he like schools everybody on the yard.
Why do you keep doing this with your hand?
Because I'm bouncing the ball.
Yeah, I really liked I love shooting basketball, man.
Okay.
Like I've noticed my daughter, like we were walking
got
by.
hops.
No, she can't stand on her tippy toes, but like I noticed her like watching people play basketball, and she was very interested in it. I was like, there's an opportunity. 'Cause I always want to go shoot hoops, but
money maker.
I ain't got time to read books. I ain't got time to go see Dune. I ain't got no time to go shoot basketball hoops.
You got no time for anything.
I got time for this.
For the podcast.
I make time for this. This is an obligation. This is something I want to do.
You don't have time for anything. You make time for the things that are important to you.
Man, that was powerful.
So,
hey, I wanted to bring up on a past episode. It was a little while back, but we had talked about spirituality and religion, and something you said was you mentioned the concept of religious trauma.
My collar is off. You didn't even tell me my collar was off, dude.
I just don't like that shirt.
Oh my lord!
What's up with that shirt?
You don't like it? I got it at Target.
Yeah, I know. I could tell.
I'll return it.
I'm not a fan. But so the concept of religious trauma. What would you describe religious trauma as? How would you define religious trauma?
That's a hard. You didn't prepare me for this.
I did actually. We talked about this. Like,
I would say like just a traumatic experience you had around religion that maybe pushed you away from religion, and it could be. I mean, it could be anything from like we hear a lot of on the news, right? That there's people who are deeply ingrained in religious institutions, whether it's like priests or pastors or whatnot, who tend to do some messed up things, right? To people, take advantage of people, abuse their power and the role that they play. And so if you've been a victim of that, it could also be like if your parents made like forced church on you or even abused you in some way, with backing up, principles of like their religion or the Bible, right? Saying like, oh, because of this, we had to wash your mouth with soap because you cussed, and the word says you can't, blah blah blah. So that could be like religious trauma, where it adverse effects that kind of push you away from religion.
I think that I'm happy you like explained that to me. I thought it was something we should bring back up, but briefly, because we got something else to talk about this week. But yeah, I think that I might probably even suffered some of that, because I remember growing up, my mom had like a bad experience with some people that were affiliated with a certain religion. Yeah. And from that, like I saw how it impacted my mom. My mom had a strong influence on me. And then I almost saw the church in a certain way, and it traumatized like my experience with it, and it's like
generational trauma.
Yeah.
Mom was traumatized directly, and some of those beliefs around the church that she developed due to the trauma passed down to you a little bit, and saw the church negatively. That's what you're saying?
But any of those things could impact us in any type of way. I had a client recently talk about being traumatized because his uncle had committed suicide, and he had a very strong religious family. And when he went to try to get some understanding and meaning behind why his uncle would take his own life, he was like shut out in a certain way, and it was based kind of around like religious beliefs. And because he didn't get those answers and almost didn't get that clarity, he was very turned off from like the religion he was so enmeshed in for such a long time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But as we were talking about too, about like influence, and we're kind of talking about like power dynamic, and I guess this goes into this. That was a terrible segue. I had such a good idea for a segue, but I lost it.
Dude,
you're dropping so much knowledge.
I'm over here just being quiet
with that fucked up shirt.
Just here being quiet.
Oh, so this week we start the clock. Seriously though, we're gonna talk about a show. It's called Quiet on Shit. It's Quiet on Shit.
Quiet on Shit. Every time I take a shit, I'm quiet.
New York, unique New York. All right. So this week we're gonna
talk. What's up with that? You always say that. What's going on? Is that like a?
I got that from Ron Burgundy. Yeah. It's like it's a vocal warm up.
It makes you like calm down.
It helps you like kind of talk more fluid. But obviously, I did not do that this week.
Take it back, Jesse. Oh.
So we were going to talk about
Quiet on Set.
Quiet on Set. It was a docu-series
on HBO.
No, it's on HBO. Yes. Oh yeah, it's on Max. Yeah, so which is HBO and Cinemax combined. Doesn't matter where it's at. We don't need to publicize. Like you'll find it. It's very popular right now. It's been very popular. So I will say this. Why
are you getting so angry?
Okay. We
Goose Fraba.
Is that Spanish?
That's anger management. I always.
Oh my God, he wants to talk
Adam
about
Sandler.
I don't. I like the Sandman. I'm not hating on the Sandman. I heard there's actually gonna be a Happy Gilmore too.
Nice. You're not gonna watch it.
No, dude.
You're a hater, dude.
Carl Weathers passed away.
Can you just admit that you're a hater?
I'm not. Of what?
Of Adam Sandler.
No, I'm not,
yeah,
dude.
You do.
No, I
roll your eyes every time I talk about Galaxia. Galaxia, the girl that they go visit on anger management.
this one movie reference. Like, I like Happy Gilmore. Yeah. I like Big Daddy.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah. So I do a really good Sandler impersonation from Lil Nicky.
Let's see.
Give me some fried chicken. You have to put your mouth. That wasn't a very popular Sandler movie, but
that's great.
Thanks, man. See, I love the Sandman.
Next week, why does Jesse hate Adam Sandler?
So we'll that's not a trending topic whatsoever. I love the Sandman. Yeah. I think he's great. He's hilarious. So
okay, quiet on set.
Starting the clock.
Yes.
I ran across this docuseries, Quiet on Set. It was about Nickelodeon in the 90s. It was a very, very heavy topic. I brought it to Manny's attention. He hadn't heard anything about it. And then I had him. You watched it before I did.
I did, yeah. No, yeah, you
did.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, check it out. I hadn't watched it yet. I heard things about it. But I was in 2 episodes in, right? And I was like, my initial feeling was like, I don't know if I want to do a show about this.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I think this is something that would be good to talk to our audience about because of professionally who we are in the field. Yeah. So I said, yeah. So we're going to talk about the docuseries Quiet on Set.
I am nervous to talk about it.
Why are you nervous? I know why I'm nervous.
I just like that.
Not nervous, maybe just like
I'm just nervous
uncomfortable.
I'm comfortable talking about like child abuse, just because I have a lot of counter transference around child abuse, where I get this reaction. And so as a therapist, I pride myself in being able to be non-reactive and sort of cool, calm, and collected. But there's something about this topic that just bubbles up inside of me. So that's the part where I'm just kind of don't get all crazy here, Manny.
Do you want to explain the series for somebody who hasn't watched the show yet?
Yeah. The show it's a docuseries about Dan Schneider, who is a content writer at Nickelodeon, and who has created a bunch of kids TV shows. I think the famous ones were the Amanda Show,
Amanda Bynes.
Which
had a lot of public mental health things put out there. So
and then what were the 2 guys?
Drake and Josh.
Was
did you
one.
Time frame wise? Can I ask you did you grow up on these shows? Because you are a little bit younger than me.
I was. They were on, but I was never a Nickelodeon. I was always watching Disney.
Okay,
yeah. Right. But
I watch a lot of Nickelodeon, when they talk about Ren and Stimpy. But I was a little bit older, so I didn't watch the more kind of
Zoe one.
Yeah, the more live action kid shows. I almost thought it was they were like sketch shows. So it was almost like Saturday Night Live for kids. Yeah. And I was already kind of wanting to watch Saturday Night Live. I think my sister Whitney, she watched some of those shows, but I'm not 100% sure. Or maybe even Harper, my other sister. Anyways, but
yeah. So they did a docuseries because there's been some allegations against Dan Schneider about just workplace. I don't know, I guess a workplace abuse or a misuse of power in the workplace. Yeah. And so they go into talking about, just how working with kids and some of the boundaries that were crossed working with kids, where it was overworking them. There was cases about child abuse that were talked about, and even some unfair treatment towards women in the workplace. Yeah. And so that's kind of and I thought it'd be good for us to have a reaction around just some of the stuff that was discussed.
Well, as I said, I was in 2 episodes, and it was a hard pill to swallow. I'm going to share.
What was hard for you?
Well, just the use of the countertransference and my difficulty on trying to be I don't want to say supportive, but have empathy for the accused.
Yeah.
I will say that I watched that documentary, and then I had a group therapy session earlier in the week, and the client had talked about his daughter experiencing some sexual trauma as well. And I would say it was a heavy thing for me to really process. Just watching the documentary itself, I don't know. I found myself kind of not shutting down, but like disengaging emotionally because I didn't. Yeah. It was just so heavy and very sad and heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I think I actually watched the show, and right before it, like 2 weeks or so before, we watched Sound of Freedom, which is kind of similar, sort of like this little girl gets recruited to be a child model, and then like they take away the kids and they sell the kids off, and so it is super reactive. And I think one of the things I strongly reacted to was this guy Brian Peck, right, who was one of the guys who was abusing children, and he was like he was in charge of supporting the child actors, and
he had a relationship with Drake Bell. He's the one who came out with the allegations, and I mean he was charged.
Yeah.
But his name was John Doe for a very long time. Drake Bell, he never shared like it was him.
That was the first time he talked about it, right?
It was the first time, he talked about it. Yeah. So, and I talked about, we talked about, let me bring this up to the audience. What is grooming? What does that mean? Can you give a good clinical explanation of what it is to groom somebody?
I guess it's kind of like manipulating someone into getting into a relationship with you, or engaging in things that are a little bit, a little tricky, I guess. So examples of grooming that happened on the show was this guy Brian Peck would tell Drake, is his name Drake?
Drake Bell, right?
Drake Bell.
Yeah.
He would tell him like, hey, like, your dad is not looking out for your best interests. Mm-hmm. You should like not
fire him as your agent.
And dad was very much protective of Drake and saw something really weird with Brian
relationship
Peck. And was there to intervene so that his son was safe. And so this Brian Peck guy would convince Brian Peck guy would convince Drake Bell to isolate himself from his dad. And so that was grooming, right? It's almost like getting him to be in a vulnerable place. Yeah,
I know. We're talking the show as a whole and some events that happen from it. I guess grooming could not. It takes place not only just with like an older adult and a younger child or teenager, but this could happen in other type of relationships too, right? Like you can, I guess.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Like in the sense of manipulation, like grooming. Grooming to me is almost like you're setting this person up. You're starting to groom them to be this. Almost creating like a false narrative around you, like, and that's what Brian Peck did, was that he basically befriended Drake Bell. Like, I'm cool. I'm like somebody, like almost a friend, somebody he could trust. And then when you start to really trust in somebody, and this person was like taking him to Disneyland and doing fun things with him, slowly he started to get in his ear and started to manipulate, kind of almost a gaslighting effect, right? Creating this lie, creating this
I'm on your side.
This idea of like, this is what your father is. And he started to slowly groom this idea that like your father's not a good person. This isn't the exact statement, but like your father's not a good person. Father's not a good person by bringing up different ideas. Yeah. And then with, and probably even leaned in the possibility like, Drake Bell's mom and dad, they were divorced. They weren't in a relationship. So even going maybe to the mom and like getting in her ear and saying how like, hey, Drake Bell's dad is bad for his son. Like, father-son like managing that usually doesn't work out. That's so it was, so that would be like a good example of grooming. You're pulling good.
I got a good definition right here.
Thank
you. Yeah. So grooming is the practice of preparing or training someone for a particular purpose or activity.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
He was setting that up.
Thank you, Google.
But no, he was setting that up. Yeah. Like he had, and unfortunately, a goal was like, how can I get this guy close to me?
Right.
Unfortunately, in a very disturbing, like in a sexual way more than anything. Like, how can I make him like me or love me or see him like the one? I'm going into this guy's mind, Brian Peck, and I wouldn't dare do that because I don't know how somebody like that thinks.
Yeah, it's tough to really empathize, I think, and actually I know that we talked to like a therapist who works with clients who are child abusers, and like you really have to have a way to empathize with. And we talked about this, like that would be really hard for us, and that's okay. That doesn't mean nothing bad about us.
One of my weaknesses. That's okay.
Yeah, but I'm like I really would have a hard time empathizing. Maybe it's because I have 2 kids of my own that are really young. Yeah, but I had a strong reaction to like Brian Peck getting 16 months in prison. I just felt like that didn't seem very like
didn't fit the crime.
Yeah. Did you have a reaction to that at all or no?
I mean, you know what? Wildly enough, when I heard that, I was like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I feel like that people, maybe in other countries, this country, I think people get away with murder sometimes, and it's like, it didn't seem like, it seemed like there should be a lot worse consequences, but it didn't really surprise me, which is kind of like,
it's crazy.
I don't know if it's desensitized to people like not, justice not being served, but I was like, what a shocker. And then he's back on set being around kids again, and like, that's the power almost like of maybe people in the entertainment field or in like, rich establishments where it's like, he's already working on like a set, like a kid's set, like shortly after getting out of jail, right?
It makes you wonder like if he was like protected, and Hollywood's big, right? And like there's a lot of people who are invested in Hollywood, and if there's some sort of protection that was happening at that point where he could get off a little lenient, and he had, I don't know, maybe I'm sitting your thunder here, but he had a bunch of support around him during his trial.
No, that I think that was brought up in the docuseries that he had 41 people like write a letter of like characters and saying like, this guy Brian Peck is basically a good dude. I really thought about that though, and I was talking to you about this before we recorded. Back to the grooming thing. There's a good potential that this guy created a narrative for these people and suggested like maybe the crime wasn't as severe.
Yeah.
And and it could be power influence. It could be just being trustworthy of a friend, thinking somebody. Because I've shared this story with you, but like I worked in this field. I'd met this individual. He was a owner of a treatment center, and I worked with him. And I told you years later it came out like he was arrested and charged for like exposing himself to minors and other things. And sometimes you just don't know what that person's gonna look like.
Right.
So, and that person was a friend to people, a father to people, a husband to somebody. So sometimes you don't know the inner workings of people, even though we're like trained professionals, and we're prone to like what did you say? We're prone to like, what was the judgment thing you said? We're masters at,
I don't know.
Damn, it was so good.
Was it today?
Yeah, we were just talking about this. Like we in our field, we're trained.
Oh, we're trained to be to have good judgment.
Yes.
Right? And so when you were using the example of if this was you going through this, if you were Brian Peck and you came to me asking,
but I said, "Hey, Manny, check this out, dude. I got in a little bit of trouble. I was hanging out with this girl. She said she was 22, but she was 18 or 17.
Yeah,
that'd be underage. Dude, like, yeah, it sucks, man. Like, I was just, whatever story or spiel I tell you, right? Like,
can you write me a letter?
Yeah, dude. Just hey, dude. Like, I'm in some trouble. You know who I am. Yeah. I wouldn't do that. This was like things were going on in my life. Maybe I didn't talk about. Like, I find my way to like groom you to like believe like this is the reality here when it's not. But so yeah, and then we said like in Hollywood maybe there was like people that had power, like, and you're like, hey, I got you this job, so you almost feel like you owe somebody this. I don't know if all 41 people like what their thinking was, but like
well, you have to think about that, like how much of Hollywood is relationships, like connections. Like you can hook me up with this, you have hooked me up with this, so when you ask someone, it could come from a leverage point of like, look at all these jobs I got you, dude, like come on. Where you won't even, it doesn't even have to be said, but you almost feel maybe the pressure of that, right? Mm-hmm. I told you, like, what if I came up to you and asked you for a letter of support, but it was like right after I just helped you get a job, and then eventually I helped you get promoted, and now you're like making the most money you've ever made,
right?
Like you'd probably be a little less, wait a second, let's figure this out. but naturally, I think where you were going at is that, like, because we're therapists and counselors, and we are in the mental health field, I feel like we have to have good clinical judgment to do our job. Things have to add up for us, and we're always thinking in the back of our mind, like, how does this add up?
Right.
How could this how could this situation have been created? Whenever someone talks to us about something, not to judge this person, but so it makes sense, so we know how to help someone.
The bullshit sensors go off. Like, we have seen this before. We've heard the story, but it's not adding up. So we're truth seekers. We're looking for that, and so unfortunately, people, not
everybody has that skill.
Yeah, not everybody has that skill. So,
he had 41 letters of support.
I know that I think on the docuseries, one person said, I didn't know the actual charges so when I read that, I was like, I almost was like, okay, I can believe that person. I could see this individual, Brian Peck, doing what it took to get those letters, like either using his stroke and his power or manipulating friends into thinking this is what the story was when it wasn't. So because there was a couple people that were really well-known names, like one actor I like, and he's been in a couple different things I like. Obviously, once again, he's just an actor. I don't know him from anything but on what I see him on my screen. But I was like, my first response is, I usually do, I'm like, that sucks. I don't like that guy anymore. But I was like, okay, I can maybe see. I wish he would come out with a statement straight up, though. I wish he would say, hey, this is what happened. Clear your name. Because guess what? If I had written a letter for a friend and the friend, it was a lie, I'd be the first one to be like, check this out. This is what happened. I would want to something so heavy of a charge. I'd be like, I'm clearing my fucking name right now. I'm not going to play around with charges like this, because these are serious charges, accusations, and I'm not associated with any of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Something that particularly stood out to me too about the show is one of the moms that was that I think it was not Brian Peck, but there was another abuser in the show. Yeah, and I forget his name, but he had come to the house and they found they raided his house and they found a collection of items. Right, forget his name. Yeah. But one of the moms was talking about how she realized that this was happening because her daughter came home crying one day because this guy had sent her a picture of him masturbating or something, right? And so she was underage. And mom didn't call the police, and I really connected with that, and I felt a little bit a lot of compassion for this mom, because she was afraid of being considered a bad mom for allowing something like this to happen. And it really just speaks to what someone who is in that situation, what is a barrier for them to go to the police. A lot of people are like, just go to the police. And in hindsight, obviously, go to the police. But in that moment, there's probably just a lot of shame you're going through as a mom. How could I let this happen? This is my fault in some ways. And even though it's untrue, it kind of stops you from going for help, right? And maybe something could have been done sooner, right? If she had gone, obviously, I'm sure she would have changed that if she had the ability to. But
there was one kid on there who's an adult now, the African American kid, I can't remember his name, but his mom was on the show. And she talked about how there was a rift between the two of them, because she was pretty vocal about what the show was asking for him to do. And she didn't like what was going on, but it impacted his career. And
because he didn't return after that.
No, he didn't. And and I think he even discussed, I wish I remember the gentleman's name, but he discussed how there was a bit of a rift with him and his mom because of what happened. It was such a big thing for him. That was everything. I don't want to create a narrative for him. He didn't, but my perception was he loved doing that. And then it was taken away from him. And how could you not be it's your fault, it's my mom's fault, because of you, you did this, and she kind of was, I think she said looking back, she felt she's happy she did that, and probably prevented more
But in the moment, she probably
was
wondering if she did the right thing or not, right? If she was too much of a nuisance the people on set to like that they kicked out her son,
and yeah, it just makes me sad. Like I know times are so much different, and I know some people get the really like. I know it's a sensitive society. I know our culture is a lot more aware, and sometimes there's this cancel culture out there.
Yeah.
And maybe because we become sensitized, and I don't want to go too much into like the Me Too or all that stuff, but like. Some of this stuff, I'm so important there is a spotlight on this because the way that the kids were treated on these shows by people because they were older and had power, like they didn't really have a voice. And, the one girl talked about how like somebody said, you're too fat now. And she said, like, I hear that still today. Like, I'm too fat now. Like, we know we have young kids. We recognize like everything we say influences them and impacts them, the way we act, our reactions. So like it's so we create the map of their life and how to see things. So like I'm so happy that it's talked about. And if people are, I hope that you watch the show and just walk away from it going like, we got to protect our youth.
Yeah, I think I walk away from this recognizing how it can look on the outside really cool, like, oh, these kids have their own TV show, they're famous, they got everything, but really the impression that the expectations, the pressure they go through to make a show like that, and like everything that they're struggling with to try to like fit this mold of like what the director wants them to be, right? And super difficult.
We're coming close to the end on this podcast, but I know we started by
saying, talk about Drake, dude.
Yeah,
no, not Drake Josh, Drake Bell,
not the rapper, the Canadian rapper who's on another kid show. I think Degrassi, right?
He was.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about that show, Drake and Josh.
Drake Bell, yeah.
So, but we started saying like we were real nervous about talking about child abuse, and we haven't really talked about it.
Yeah.
So we should probably.
We kind of have, right? But we gotta dive deeper right now. Yeah.
A little bit, and we have a little bit of time here, but we could always break the rules a little bit.
Break the rules.
You're not charging me by minute anymore to be here, right? So, secretly, I'm actually Manny's client. That's the reveal. So, just kidding. But so Drake Bell. You want to take it? You want to take the ball around with this one?
I think one of the things that I want to talk about is one, just like there's a mixed emotions I have around him sharing his story. One of them, I'm like the power to him for being able to talk about this. Shows the growth he's done in therapy, right? Because he's able to really talk about it and recognize it. Then there's another part of me that wonders, like, man, how comfortable is he actually talking about this? Is there going to be any, like, sometimes there is this remorse you feel after you share with the world your story. Like, shit, should I have shared that? Sometimes we'll have, like, even with our guests, we'll talk about this. Hey, if there's anything you look back on and you didn't want to disclose, or you feel like you don't want us to have it on the podcast, let us know, because there is this remorse effect that happens. So that there's that. And there's something else, but is there anything you want to say about that, or? No,
nothing on the Drake Bell thing. I guess it's just with the child abuse discussion. I ran into an old client who just almost has got a year sober, and he was sharing a little bit of his testimonial of like his story, and he talked about when he first met me in the first 30 days, just like where he was at. And then he shared that later in therapy, by going to therapy, doing real therapy, he actually had like some child abuse, some sexual abuse, and it just reminds me of how big this impacts kids for years and years to come. And we see it, and you see it in sessions. I see it in groups, and you saw it on the show too with like. Couple, like Drake talked about his addiction problems, and he got in some trouble for dating an underage girl or something like that. Wasn't there something?
Yeah, he had sent inappropriate texts.
So
to an underage girl.
And this says like this carries on from generation to generation, which we talked about.
The cycle sort of like
it repeats itself. Yeah. So it's like it's so important
that saying hurt people, right?
Yeah. It's so important take a look back on our histories and really dig if, and this is another disclaimer is like, go to therapy, talk to a mental health professional about looking at these things, because hurt people do hurt people. And I can't, it's hard for me to sit here and be like, I understand Brian Pack. Like, I get him, because it's hard. Like, there's probably levels to this, and maybe at one point in time I didn't think this, but I think that there are some people out there that are really damaged and really hurt and really sick, and maybe it's hard for me to see or to understand, but I'm sure somebody hurt him along the way. And the cycle doesn't stop.
I want to share this to the viewers. If anybody is going through this, or has a family member going through this, there's a couple things that are important to know. If you do go to a therapist, we're mandated reporters, so we have a responsibility to, like, if there is active abuse happening or a threat to it or reasonable suspicion of it happening, we have to report that. So know that there is some limits to, like, us being able to keep this confidential.
Yes.
If it's abuse that happened in the past, we don't have to say anything about that. But I think that I want to encourage you to still talk about it, even if that's the case, because I think a good therapist isn't going to judge you for this. They're not going to, like, blame you. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to tell you it's your fault, or you could have done something differently. Like, there's nothing productive about that. And I think that those are the narratives that go through someone's head that keeps them from sharing this with somebody.
Yeah.
A therapist is going to be on your side. They're going to try to help you.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. Cool, man. Anything else you want to cover on this? Because, like I said, the clock's winding down.
We're good. We didn't talk about the leadership stuff, but we could touch that later on. But yeah.
What do you just go ahead and talk on it briefly?
I guess a very different, the other side of this that stood out to me was Dan Schneider and the display of the difference between power and leadership.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you think about leadership and power in the same thing, but it's different. Leading people is you don't have to exert power to do that. Leading people is supporting people. Leading people is finding a way to elevate other people, creating a good culture, a good environment for people to grow, to learn, to work together. Power is something that's different, right? And power isn't negative, but I think when someone doesn't know how to be a good leader, sometimes they can use their power to make people do things, to exert power over people, and that's when it kind of gets tricky. And I think the Dan Schneider narrative does a good display of how a lack of leadership skills can get you in trouble at times.
Yeah. So, like, then you could probably say he was very ego-driven at times, because when you have that power and you don't use that power for good and use it for whatever, for your own personal benefits or enjoyments, or to, it's that's where it gets really ugly, and that's not a real leader right there. So
I encourage you guys to watch the show and let us know if there's anything that stood out to you guys, or
any feedback from our viewers just about, like, what their experience was. And we wouldn't mind talking about it, because it's a loaded subject, as we talked about with the sexualization of even kids on television, right? Like how kids are presented to, like, be adults already. And the child abuse thing is it's just cycle abuse. All those things are important to bring up.
We had a race and therapy podcast that was uncomfortable for us, and afterwards we were talking about, I don't know if it was recorded or not, but we were like, that was a little uncomfortable, and Edwina was like, that's good. The fact that it's uncomfortable, we got to talk about this.
Yeah,
so
I think
same thing here. I'm feeling like,
I didn't say this on camera though, right? I think I was asking, like, what's the difference between saying black versus African American, like, so. These topics, like, we sit and it's uncomfortable, and, like, I have these initial responses when I'm talking about, like, child abuse and those that are accused and the people they've done to other kids. I'm like, I have this instinct to just attack, and so it's it's uncomfortable, but being vulnerable is what we gotta do. In here, out there, in the rooms.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a cycle to change instead of the cycle of abuse. So.
Awesome, man. Good stuff.
Good.